Okay, hello everyone, I'm Harriet. For the last couple of years, I've been a front-end developer, and I've actually just joined BuildKite as a technical writer. So this talk today is about community building with the help of sociolinguistics. So I'll be talking a little bit about what sociolinguistics is, how it's relevant to us, and how we can use their tactics to help make the JavaScript community a better place. I'm currently doing my Masters of Applied Linguistics at the University of Melbourne, which is how I got interested in how traditional language communities are being built. So this talk actually started life as a paper for my degree, and it actually still is. I'm currently prepping it for publication. And it turns out that condensing 5,000 academic words into a 15-minute talk is kind of hard. So let's start off with just talking about communities. So what is a community? So really, it's just a bunch of people all together doing the same thing. In linguistics, we can call this a community of practice. So we all together doing shared meaning making. And when a new person wants to join a new community, they have to learn how they do things differently to the previous communities that they've been a member of. So this is comprised of lots of different things. Some of these are language things, so jargon or in-jokes, and some of them are cultural. So for example, the JavaScript community's approach to open source development, or our big focus on diversity and inclusion. So all of these things are kind of social and they're kind of linguistic, and together we get sociolinguistics. So a little bit of definition to start off with. Sociolinguistics is the study of how language functions in a society. This is a really broad field, and it covers way too much stuff for this talk. So something more relevant to us today is language socialization. So becoming a member of a society through the use of language. I know I said this talk was going to be about sociolinguistics, and I kind of lied. It's actually about language socialization. That doesn't sound anywhere near as exciting. So in the traditional language learning sense, language socialization is all the other stuff that you learn when you're learning a language that is not the actual words. And you may be familiar with when you're learning a language, it's much easier to learn it when you're living in the country that's spoken, because you get all the other really important stuff that is not just the words. This is all socialization. So being a part of a community means that you are helping to build it. And we want nice communities. We want them to make people feel welcome and make it easy to join. And these things are important because we want more people to come and be part of the JavaScript magic. So let's have a look at how we can do this better. JavaScript on a whole is actually pretty good at these things, unlike some other communities around here. But back to socialization. What does this actually look like in practice? It's the language that we use when we talk about JavaScript. So you might be a member of lots of different programming communities, and they all have different ways of being a member. So how do we let people know what our special JavaScript way of doing things is? We use socialization strategies. There's heaps of them, and I'm not going to cover off all of them, but I have picked out a bunch of interesting ones, and I've divided them into 3 categories. We've got welcoming strategies, learner-focused strategies, and community-focused strategies. So up first, we've got welcoming. There are 2 different types of welcoming. We've got positive welcoming and negative welcoming. So an example of some positive welcoming. Maybe I've tweeted this. I said, here's my tiny project. I'm learning this thing, and it was hard, but it was also fun and worth it. And here's a link. So this says to everyone else reading this, oh, having a hard time learning JavaScript is okay, it's normal. And being vulnerable is also okay. So this isn't just good for new people joining our community. It also makes people who are already members feel more comfortable. An example of some negative welcoming. Maybe I've done this pull request, I'm adding a new feature, and one of my friends comments and says, oh, lol, what a shit idea. Maybe this is an in-joke. Maybe we do this every time we do a pull request. But for those not in the know, this is not a good time. It does make it look like we're part of this exclusive group, and once you become a member of this group, you get to pay everyone out as well. But that's not actually a good thing. It actually makes it look like once you become a member of the JavaScript community, we'll all attack the quality of your work, and we'll make light of your efforts. So this can even be alienating for your existing team members. Maybe they know about your jokes, but they're not a part of it. And it could potentially entirely scare off new members. So next up, we're going to look at some learner-focused socialization strategies. There's a lot of different ones. I'm going to cover a few kind of quickly. The first one we've got is legitimation. So we're going to tell learners and members that the thing that they are working on is legitimate. Second one we've got is normalizing failure, making sure that everyone knows that failure is a normal part of working with JavaScript. We're going to highlight the personal benefits. For people who are just joining, we want to show them exactly what they will personally get from becoming a member of our community. We've got strategies for questioning. So teaching people how to ask good questions and being open to having people ask you questions. We've got self-efficacy, which is supporting people's belief in their own ability to succeed. And finally, legitimate peripheral participation. It's a lot of words, but it's an important one. So this is all of the different ways that you can participate in our community without actually writing code that are still important parts of being a member. Things like upvoting Stack Overflow questions and answers and asking and answering these questions ourselves. Writing blog posts, tweeting about the new things that you've done or challenges that you've faced. And making all of these different activities just as important as writing code makes our community a whole lot easier to join. And it's easier to be part of it as an existing member as well, because you don't want to just have to write code all the time to be a legitimate JavaScript developer. You want to have other activities that are just as important and more fun. So lastly, we're going to look at some community-focused strategies. First up, we've got accepted strategies for engagement. So this is figuring out how we best communicate with other members in our community and clearly defining these. Then, active participation, we want to actually use these strategies that we've defined. So we don't want to just hide in a corner and write some code by ourselves. We want to be engaging with our other members and creating value. Strategies for getting help. So this is defining how people should get in touch with you for help. And finally, support structures. So there are lots and lots of different places that you can get help in the JavaScript community. There's thousands of online tutorials, there's meetups, Twitter, conferences, GitHub issues, Slack groups, and so many more. But we need to let people know which ones they need to go to, and that it's okay to go to these places. So JavaScript does this pretty well. We are pretty good at encouraging people to talk about things that have gone badly for them, as well as things that have gone well. And because of this, we can set the example for newcomers by posting about things that we've learned at every level. So it doesn't just have to be junior developers writing about their first experience with JavaScript, or senior developers talking about super advanced and deep technical concepts. If you post about how you've been working with JavaScript for 5 years and you just set up your first Express server the other day, or how you finally looked up exactly what that node NOENT error meant, this is opening up the conversation about learning at all levels, and this creates and defines the support structures for all our members, no matter where they are in their JavaScript journey. So let's recap. Socialization is all of these different things that we do to become a member of a new community. And all the things that I've talked about today are all used all the time in traditional language learning, and they're really effective at building good language communities. All of these things we can start using in our programming communities. So let's start thinking about the language that we're using when we interact with our fellow developers, when we're training new team members, when friends ask about JavaScript or start using it for the first time, and especially when we post on the internet about JavaScript. By thinking about the language that we use when we talk about JavaScript, each of us can make our community a friendlier, more comfortable, and more welcoming place for new people and new ideas. Thanks.